Welcome to Real English Podcast. I'm Annie.
And I'm Brendy.
Please take a moment right now to like, subscribe, and share with friends for the Real English Podcast. It might feel fast, but that's just how Americans talk. You'll hear it again later, so no pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And we're just so happy to have you here with us today.
We really are. So, have you ever translated an English sentence perfectly in your head, but then when a native speaker says it, it sounds like, well, complete gibberish?
Oh, I hear about that from learners all the time. There is this huge hidden gap between textbook English and real-life conversation.
Right, and that gap is exactly what we are conquering in our deep dive today. We are going to help you cross that bridge.
We really are. So our mission for this deep dive is to master something called phrasal verbs.
Phrasal verbs. Right. And if you have been studying English for a while, you probably know there are hundreds of them, right?
Oh, absolutely hundreds. And, textbooks usually just give you this very long, very boring list to memorize.
Ugh, the worst. Memorizing a list doesn't actually explain how these words work in the real world.
No, it doesn't. And honestly, memorizing without understanding is incredibly frustrating. So we are definitely not going to do that to you today.
Definitely not. We are going to break things down step by step, nice and slow. But first, why do we even need to care about phrasal verbs?
Well, because native speakers use these verbs constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, you really cannot have a normal conversation in English without hearing them.
That is so true.
Understanding how they function is literally the secret to sounding natural, sounding comfortable, and most importantly, feeling really confident when you speak.
Exactly. So let's look at the basic building blocks first. Before we jump into the absolute most important phrase of our deep dive today, we have to understand how these words are actually built.
Right. So a phrasal verb usually consists of a normal everyday action word plus a tiny extra word.
And today, we are looking at the tiny word up. UP.
It is such a small word. I mean, it's only 2 letters.
2 letters, yeah.
But it has an incredible amount of power in the English language.
It really does. I actually like to think of this small word, which, grammar books call a particle like a strong spice in cooking.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Right. Imagine you are making dinner and you start with a plain, boring piece of boiled chicken. That is your regular plain verb. It does the job, but it is not very exciting.
Pretty bland.
Very bland. But when you add a strong spice to that chicken-like, adding the word up to your plain verb, it completely changes the flavor of the word.
That is just a brilliant way to visualize it. You're taking something basic and giving it a completely new identity.
Exactly.
And here is where the mechanics of the language get really interesting. When you first learn English, you were taught that the word up only means moving to a higher physical position.
Right, like you pick up a heavy box from the floor or you stand up from your chair.
Exactly. The physical movement from low to high is very literal. But as a spice, the word up can do so much more than just physical movement.
Really? What else can it do?
Well, it can actually change a verb to mean creating something.
Oh.
Or completing something.
Oh, I see. Okay, let's explore the creation aspect first. So plain cooking is just heating food. But if you tell me you are going to cook up a plan, you are actively manufacturing a brand new idea from scratch.
Yes, you're creating it. Or think about the word dream. When you are sleeping in your bed, your mind just has dreams.
Right, it just happens automatically.
Exactly. But if you are awake at your desk and you invent a completely new creative idea to solve a problem, you can say, I am going to dream up a solution.
Oh, I love that. So plain dreaming is just what happens when you sleep. But dreaming up means you are actively creating a brand new idea while you are fully awake.
You got it. The spice up adds that strong feeling of creation.
That is so helpful. What about the other meaning? You said it can also mean to complete something.
That is right. Think about filling a glass with water. You pour the water until it reaches the very top. The glass is completely full. It is filled up.
Ah, right. It reaches the limit.
Exactly. And we use this same logic for activities. When you completely finish an activity, you use up. For example, if we're at the end of a very long, tiring meeting at work, you might look at your team and say, let's wrap up this meeting.
Wrap up. W-R-A-P. To wrap up means to bring the event to a total finished conclusion, like wrapping a present and tying a bow on it. It is done.
Or you can simply say, let's finish up. Like if you were working on a big design project, your boss might send you an email saying, please finish up the design by Friday. It just means to complete it totally, leaving nothing undone.
Wow, understanding that underlying logic makes it so much easier to remember. Let's practice saying this smoothly so you can feel what it is like to sound totally natural.
Yes, let's do some practice.
I want you to take a breath, relax, and try saying this out loud wherever you are right now. Repeat after me. Let's wrap up the meeting. Pause for 3 seconds.
Very good. Let's do that one more time. Focus on saying the words clearly and smoothly. Repeat after me. Let's wrap up the meeting. Pause for 3 seconds.
Great job. You are doing amazing. So, if we know that the word up can mean reaching a final state of total completion, well, that logic leads us perfectly to the absolute star of our deep dive today.
Yes, it really does. This is the most important phrase of the day. This is a phrasal verb that Americans use every single day in almost every situation you can imagine.
I am so excited for this one.
The phrase is end up.
End up. You know, whenever I hear end up, it always feels like the speaker is admitting defeat. Like their original plan completely fell apart and they are just surrendering to whatever happened. Wait, is end up only used for bad surprises? Or can it be good?
That's a very common assumption, but it's not quite true. It simply means to finally be in a particular situation or place, especially after a plan changes or something unexpected happens.
Okay, so it just means the final result of a journey.
Yes, exactly. It can absolutely be a bad surprise, but it can also be incredibly positive.
So it is really just about the element of surprise, not necessarily a negative failure.
Correct. Imagine you get into your car on a Sunday afternoon. You have no map, you have no plan, you just keep driving for hours through the countryside.
That sounds nice, honestly.
Right. And eventually, you stop the car by a stunning, gorgeous, hidden lake. You could say, we just kept driving and ended up somewhere beautiful.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. You did not plan to go to the beautiful lake when you started the engine, but that is where your journey reached its final completion. You ended up there.
Exactly. Now, to help you use this naturally in your own everyday life, we are going to look at the 4 specific ways native speakers build sentences with end up.
Perfect. So let's think about the different ways a plan can actually change. The most common situation in everyday life is when you plan to do one specific action, but you actually perform a completely different action.
Yes. And when that happens, you use end up plus an action word ending in ing.
We call that an ing verb, like walking, talking, or buying.
Exactly. Let's use a grocery store example. You walk into the supermarket and you tell yourself, I am only going to buy healthy vegetables today.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, then you smell the bakery section, you see a chocolate cake, you stare at the cake, and finally you put the cake in your basket.
I do that every time.
Right. So you would say, I was only going to buy vegetables, but I ended up buying a cake.
I've absolutely done that. Notice the action word there, everyone. Buying. I ended up buying a cake. Here's another one. You sit down at your desk with a textbook. You say, I am only going to study for 1 hour.
A very noble plan.
But the topic is so interesting that 3 hours pass by. You could say, I planned to study for 1 hour, but I ended up studying all afternoon.
Listen carefully to the ing sound at the end of the action word. Ended up studying. Now it is your turn to practice this pattern out loud. Repeat after me. I ended up buying a cake. Pause for 3 seconds.
Excellent. So that covers the actions we take. But what about the physical toll an unexpected event takes on our bodies or our minds? If I do all that unexpected studying, how do I describe the way I feel at the end of the day?
Well, when you want to describe a final feeling or physical state, you use end up plus an adjective. And an adjective is simply a describing word.
Got it. So let's say you stay awake until 3 in the morning watching a terrible movie that you did not even want to watch.
Oh, the worst feeling.
Right. The next morning, when your alarm goes off, how do you feel? You would say, I stayed up too late, so I ended up exhausted. Exhausted is the adjective. It just means entirely out of energy.
Or imagine you go for a walk outside. You think it's going to be warm, so you do not bring a jacket. But halfway through your walk, the wind starts blowing and the temperature really drops.
Oh, I hate being cold.
Me too. So the result is that your physical state changes. You would say, I forgot my jacket, so I ended up cold.
Let's practice describing a feeling together. Repeat after me. I ended up exhausted. Pause for 3 seconds.
You are doing beautifully. Now, what if the journey itself changes? What if your physical location is the surprise at the end of the story?
Oh, okay. Well, when you want to talk about a final physical location, you simply use end up plus a place.
Right. Think about being on vacation in a new country. You are trying to find a famous museum, but you take the wrong bus. You ride the bus for an hour, get off, and realize you are standing in front of a sports stadium.
Not the museum at all.
Exactly. You could call your friend and say, we got lost and ended up at the wrong hotel or ended up at the wrong place.
It also works for big life journeys, too. Maybe a young woman goes to university in a tiny, quiet village in the mountains, but over the next 10 years, her career changes. She moves from city to city, and finally, she settles down in a massive metropolis.
A totally different life.
Right. You could look at her life story and say she ended up in New York.
The final destination of her journey. Let's try saying this one out loud together. Repeat after me. She ended up in New York. Pause for 3 seconds.
Fantastic. Now, there is one more common situation. Sometimes you go somewhere and you bring something home that you did not plan to get. You acquire a physical object.
For this situation, you use end up with plus a noun, and a noun is just a person, a place, or a thing.
Right, but we have to pay very close attention to that tiny word with. You need to say end up with something. Why do we need the word with here?
Because the object you acquired is now accompanying you. It is literally with you. Let's look at a fun example. Imagine a family visits an animal shelter. The parents tell the children, we are only getting one puppy today.
Famous last words.
Right. But the puppies are all brothers and sisters, and they are crying, and the family simply cannot choose just one. What is the final result? The parents might say, we only wanted one puppy, but we ended up with 3 dogs.
Wow. They acquired 3 dogs, they ended up with them. And, it also works for non-physical things you acquire, like success.
Oh, definitely.
Imagine a person works late every single night for a year. They solve massive problems for their company. At the end of the year, the boss calls them into the office. The person could say, I worked hard all year and I ended up with a promotion.
You acquired the promotion. It is a wonderful surprise. Let's practice that happy example right now. Repeat after me. He ended up with a promotion. Pause for 3 seconds.
Knowing these structural rules is wonderful. It gives you a really great foundation. But to truly learn English, you cannot just look at grammar rules.
No, you really can't. You need to hear how native speakers actually use these phrases in the wild when they're just talking to their friends.
Context is everything. When you hear the natural rhythm of a real conversation, your brain absorbs the language much faster.
It really does. So we are going to act out a realistic, friendly dialogue for you right now using our assigned names.
Right. Imagine it is Monday morning at the office. 2 coworkers are standing near the coffee machine talking about how they spent their weekend. Listen closely to how they share their surprising stories.
Okay, ready.
Let's do it. Hey, how was your weekend?
It was actually pretty exhausting. I was only planning to organize the papers on my desk.
Only your desk. Well, that doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, that's what I thought on Saturday morning. But once I started, I just kept finding more mess. I ended up cleaning my entire apartment.
Wow. How long did that take you?
Almost 6 solid hours of scrubbing floors.
That is seriously impressive. But tell me, you at least found something interesting while you were digging through all that stuff.
Actually, I did. I found a dusty old box in the back of my closet. It had a vintage photo album that I hadn't seen in over 10 years. I sat down on the floor, and I ended up looking through every single picture until it got dark outside.
Honestly, that sounds like a really beautiful surprise.
It really was. My knees hurt from scrubbing, but the memories were worth it. How about you? Did you have a more relaxing weekend?
Well, I had this big plan to go to the grocery store, buy fresh ingredients, and cook a huge, healthy dinner on Sunday night. But after dealing with traffic for an hour, well, I ended up ordering a giant pizza.
Again, you did that last week.
Please don't judge me. The pizza was absolutely delicious, and I ended up completely stuffed and happy on my couch.
And scene. You both did a great job following along with that. Did you hear how many different ways the original plans changed in that short story?
Yeah, let's analyze my pizza story for a moment. I planned to cook, but I said I ended up ordering pizza. Now, if you read that on a piece of paper, you see 2 distinct words, end, up.
Right. But this brings us to a very crucial detail about how to actually pronounce this phrase in the real world. This is one of the biggest secrets to sounding like a native speaker.
I love this tip.
When Americans say these 2 words, they do not pause between them. They do not separate them at all. They connect the words together into one fluid sound.
Right, but why do they do that? Are they just being lazy?
It is not laziness, I promise. It is actually physical efficiency. It is a linguistic mechanism called consonant-to-vowel linking.
Okay, break that down for us.
The word end finishes with a hard consonant sound, the letter D. The word up starts with an open vowel sound, the letter U. If you stop your breath between the D and the U, it requires extra muscle movement from your tongue and your lungs.
Oh, I see. So by pushing the D directly into the U, your tongue does not have to stop moving. It saves breath and energy.
Exactly. Sounds like one long word. Ended up.
Eh.
Listen to the rhythm. I ended up buying it. We ended up staying home. She ended up becoming a doctor.
Ended up, it just rolls right off the tongue. Let's have you try this mechanical trick at home. Focus on pushing the D sound directly into the U sound without stopping your breath. Repeat after me. I ended up buying it. Pause for 3 seconds.
That is the perfect technique. You're doing great. Let's try one more, focusing on that smooth, connected breath. Repeat after me. We ended up staying home. Pause for 3 seconds.
Beautifully done. Now that you understand the physical mechanics of the pronunciation, we need to protect you from a few common traps.
Oh, yes. As language coaches, we hear a couple of very specific mistakes that learners make all the time.
What's the first one?
Well, mistake number one goes back to our very first rule, forgetting the ing on the action word. Sometimes a learner will translate directly from their native language and say, I ended up buying a new phone.
It is so easy to make that mistake, but why does that sound confusing to a native speaker?
Because without the ing, the grammar just breaks down. The ing ending tells the listener that this was a continuous action that you participated in.
Right. You must always attach it to the verb.
Exactly. You should never say, I ended up buy. You must say, I ended up buying a new phone. Buying.
That continuous action is key. And mistake number 2 is forgetting that tiny little word with when you acquire an object. Someone might proudly say, he ended up a promotion.
Yes. And if you drop the word with, the meaning of the sentence completely changes in a very funny way.
It really does.
If you say he ended up a promotion, it grammatically sounds like the man magically transformed his physical body into a piece of paper that says promotion. It's just nonsense.
You cannot turn into a promotion. You have to show that the object is accompanying you. You have to say, he ended up with a promotion.
Exactly. If you can remember those two structural rules, always use ing for actions and always use with for acquiring objects, you will be communicating with absolute clarity.
Well, now that you have a master-level understanding of end up, let's expand your vocabulary just a little bit further.
Yes, let's look at a few other incredibly common phrasal verbs that you might end up needing at work or with friends.
I think these next ones are incredibly useful. Let's start with a gentle, polite phrase that is perfect for the workplace or when talking about your personal skills. The verb is brush up on.
Brush up on.
Right. So plain brushing is what I do to my teeth in the morning or what I do to my hair. I am cleaning something, but what does it mean to brush up on a skill? Am I cleaning off the rust from an old piece of knowledge in my brain?
That is the perfect visual for it. Brush up on means to quickly review or practice a skill that you used to know but have slightly forgotten over time. It is a very polite, soft way to say you need to improve.
It feels much less embarrassing. Instead of saying, I am terrible at this, which sounds so negative, you can say, I just need to brush up on my skills. It implies the knowledge is still in there. It just needs dusting.
Exactly. For example, if your company is sending you on a business trip to Rome next month, but you haven't spoken Italian since you were a teenager, you can tell your colleagues, I really need to brush up on my Italian before my trip.
That makes perfect sense. You need to practice and reactivate that old knowledge. That is incredibly practical. What about when we are talking about future events?
A phrase you will hear constantly is look forward to.
Look forward to. Oh, that means you are anticipating a future event and you feel genuinely excited and happy about it. You are emotionally looking ahead in time.
Yes, it carries a very positive, warm feeling. Like when a long, dark winter is finally coming to a close and the weather is getting warmer, you might smile and say, I am really looking forward to summer.
Such a great phrase.
Let's practice saying this phrase because it is such a friendly expression to use with people. Repeat after me. I am looking forward to summer. Pause for 3 seconds.
Now, I have a very practical question about navigating social situations.
Okay, what is it?
What if I am in a conversation, maybe a crowded meeting at the office or a loud dinner with friends? People are talking continuously, but I have a genuinely great idea and I need to stop someone so I can share it. Interrupting people feels dangerous. What phrasal verb do I use for that?
That is a crucial social situation to know how to handle. In English, there are two different phrasal verbs for interrupting someone, and they carry completely opposite emotional feelings. The first one is jump in.
Jump in, like jumping into a swimming pool on a hot day.
Yes. Think of the conversation like a pool of water, and you want to swim with your friends. Jump in is a casual, friendly way to interrupt. It shows you are excited to participate and collaborate. You can politely raise your hand while someone is talking and ask, "Do you mind if I jump in here? I have an idea that might help."
It is polite. It is collaborative. You are asking permission to join the water, but what is the dangerous one?
The dangerous one is butt in. B-U-T-T, butt in. This also means to interrupt, but it is considered rude, aggressive, and selfish.
Ah, so butting in is like an animal using its head to push someone out of the way.
Precisely. If you butt in, it means you do not care at all about what the other people are saying. You just push your way into the conversation loudly to force people to listen to you.
That is definitely rude.
Yeah, if a coworker constantly does this during meetings, it ruins the team dynamic. You might complain to a friend later and say, "I was trying to explain the new budget, but he kept butting in and talking over me."
That gives such a clear picture. You want to politely jump in to collaborate, but you absolutely want to avoid rudely butting in and pushing people aside.
Exactly. These are fantastic conversational tools for navigating real life.
We have covered so much ground today, from cooking spices to business meetings. It's time to wrap up the lesson by reviewing our main goal.
Yes, we conquered the phrase, end up. We learned that it means to finally reach a specific situation or location, especially when your original plan took a surprising turn.
And we broke down the 4 core structural patterns. Let's do a rapid review of those rules. Pattern 1, end up plus an ing action word. I ended up buying it.
Pattern 2, end up plus a describing adjective for your physical or emotional state. We ended up exhausted.
Pattern 3, end up plus a physical location. They ended up in New York.
And pattern 4, end up with plus a noun, which means you acquired an object. She ended up with a promotion.
You have done incredibly well following along with us today. Mastering these subtle phrases takes time and patience, but understanding the underlying mechanics puts you far ahead of traditional textbook learning.
It really does. And before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Yes, something to think about outside of just the grammar rules.
I want you to think about your own life today. What is something you planned to do, but you actually ended up doing something completely different? Try writing it down in English. The place you end up might just be far more beautiful and rewarding than the place you originally aimed for.
What a brilliant perspective. Please remember to take a quick second right now to like, subscribe, and share the Real English podcast with anyone you know who is learning English. We want to help as many learners as possible cross that bridge to confidence.
And if you want to review today's lesson, I uploaded a free PDF summary in the description and in the comments. Feel free to download it and study at your own pace.